Hello and welcome to Dancers Support Mission by Sabine for Shine Your Light. Today we have a new episode of Dancers to Dancers, Words of Wisdom. And the goal of those interviews is to meet the person behind the dancer and share with you all the challenges, or maybe some of the challenges behind the scenes, and the highlights of someone's career. So today I have the great pleasure to welcome Jera Hofmann. Hi, Jera. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. I'm very excited about that. I know I've met Jera at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. We were both teaching for the professional division. But I know Jera is an amazing and beautiful dancer and a very gifted teacher. And what I like the most about her is her bubbliness and enthusiasm for what she does. And it's very contagious, and all her students will tell you that it's very special. So Jera, welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a really nice introduction.
So I'm going to start by asking you, why did you start dancing, and when did you decide that you were going to do that professionally?
So I started dancing at a very young age. I was only 3 years old. My two older sisters actually danced. My mom just happened to put my older sister in dance. She didn't dance herself, but she thought, oh, we'll throw her in and see if she likes it. And then her younger sister followed, which is my older sister. And then from what I hear, I don't remember, but from what I hear, I was only like 3 years old, and I'd be at the window and I would copy all of their steps and like be that little kid, like just following along. And their ballet teacher, she saw me, and apparently she saw my feet, and she goes,
yeah,
go over. Yeah, she came over and stretched my feet.
Has incredible feet.
So she saw my feet and she goes, oh, I think we need to get this one in dance. So they put me in dance when I was 3, and I just loved it. Like, it was just, that was lucky. I fell in love with it. And then the group of girls that I danced with, we were really, really close. So we had a great team growing up, and that team stayed together all the way through.
And that was where?
That was in Kelowna, British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just at a local studio. We did like little competitions and, that kind of scene. And then when I was 12, I auditioned for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School, and I wanted to try, to see what that was like. And then I just fell in love with the space and having all these other dancers that had this similar interest. So I got really excited about that. I was asked to stay in the professional division. So I begged my mom, and that was that. So then I started training in the professional school.
So how many years did you train with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet Professional School?
For 5 years.
Okay, 5 years. And then you graduated from there.
I did, yes. Yeah. So then from there, no, that's okay. I went to the John Cranko School in Stuttgart, Germany after that. And then from there, I joined the Stuttgart Ballet.
So tell us how this happened, right? Because how do you go from Winnipeg to Stuttgart?
So in May of my graduating year, we had gone to, it's called Assemblée Internationale in Toronto. And that's a collaboration of schools that come together. It's not a competition, it's just for training purposes and to meet other dancers, just to get a bunch of young, hopeful dancers together to meet each other and to learn from each other. So we did that, and I was exposed to the world of dance outside of Canada. And I got really excited about, the prospect of dancing maybe in Europe or traveling and dancing. So I talked to my school director at the time, Arlene Minkhorst, and I said, I'd really like to go and try to dance somewhere else. I loved Winnipeg, but I just wanted to travel and experience, something else. And so we put a video together. She had sent it to the director of the John Cranko School, and then he offered me a place in the school there.
All right. And then you joined the company.
Yes.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm going forward with. So how was it for you to dance with John Cranko's company in Stuttgart?
It was very overwhelming at first, because even here in Winnipeg, our company is about 25 dancers, and there it's 65. So I remember the first day walking in, I was still a student and I was asked to learn Giselle as a student in the school. And I remember the first day walking in and seeing these icons and idols that I had looked up to since I was a kid, right? Like Friedemann Vogel is in the company and they're all standing in the studio and you're like this little student going, okay, trying to find your place. But then once I started dancing, I realized they're just people too, with the same passion and the same goals. And everyone was actually very supportive and helpful. And I think when they see somebody who's hardworking and who's passionate about what they do, they want to nurture and support that too. So once I was in, it was not so overwhelming and scary.
So how was it also to change country and, you know, ending up in Germany after Canada? I mean, how was this experience for you?
For me, it was exciting. I love adventure and I like challenges and new, I guess, new things. I like moving around and meeting new people. So that part wasn't so scary. I think the language maybe at the beginning was a little bit overwhelming. But again, like it's always scary at first. And then once you actually look into it, um, it's not so scary. So then once I started to learn and then you start to understand, it gets exciting. And yeah, and then it kind of transitioned pretty smoothly, pretty okay.
So then you spend, how many years did you spend with them?
2 years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and then what happened? Tell us a little bit. I think it will go a little bit in the other, you know, in the other
Yeah.
question that you,
Yeah.
I mean, this is
There's,
how I'm going to bring it up. So,
yeah. Yeah. There's always two sides for sure. So then after a year in the company, I started to have a lot of ankle pain and um, I was trying to push through. You know, when you start in a company, you have to prove yourself and you want to show what you can do and show that I'm a hardworking person and I want to be here. And so I kind of pushed through the pain, probably a little bit too much. And it got to a point where it was hurting to walk, it was hurting to do most things. So I got it checked out, and they found that there was just some bone growth on the back of my heel. So they just said, we'll do a quick surgery. We'll just take that out and we'll be good to
yeah,
go.
they like
So
to cut.
yeah. So I did that. I actually flew to Toronto. There's an orthopedic surgeon in Toronto who's amazing. So I did that. I took the surgery. And when I came back, I was fully dancing in 3 months. It was amazing. It's really good. So I got back into shape and I, went again with the company and things were good. And then I started having pain on the other foot, same pain. So I said, okay, let's do it again. And I talked to Reed Anderson, the director. He was really supportive. He said, let's just do it now while you're young and you can get out of the way and then you can dance the rest of your career. So I did the second one in Germany. They did the surgery a little bit differently. And then when I tried to come back, I was just having so much pain, wasn't going away. I did all the rehab. I was working hard to get back. And so then at that point, they wanted, we went back and checked it again. They wanted to do a third surgery, reconstructive surgery. And at that point, I think I was probably at my limit of stress and of maybe resilience. And so I chose to stop. I chose to go home and take a break and be with my family and have support that I needed. And yeah, so that's
You went
when
back to Kelowna.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, so would you say that this was one of the biggest challenge of your career so far, or?
Yes, absolutely. I think that was the biggest challenge. Yeah.
And so if you could, if someone was facing the same thing, what would you tell that person? What kind of advice would you have for that person, or maybe you don't have any advice?
It's a hard one because I think as a young dancer, you're working towards this quote unquote one goal, for your whole training. It's to be in a company, to dance in a company. So I think once you make it and then something like this happens, it can be devastating because, someone's telling you, oh, I don't think you can dance. It's like, well, that's what I've done my whole life. Like for me, it was my identity. I really identified as a dancer. So to someone say to me, I don't think you can dance, on point. It's okay. You can dance something. Like, well, I'm a ballet dancer. I need to dance on point. So for me, when that happened, it felt like my identity was maybe taken away in a way. I had to go into myself and think about who I am. But I think, I don't know if this is maybe some advice, but I think if we can realize that we're people first, and of course, like, dance is so important to us, and it's such a huge part of our life, and it's beautiful. And I mean, it's still a huge part of my life, but I'm Kira first.
But you're still a dancer anyway.
Yes, yes, I am now. Yeah. And I think that's it too. This is one person's opinion and said, oh, you can't dance. And I took that. And I think if I could go back in time, I would probably, take some time and maybe get, other opinions and say, like, okay, how can I make this work? Can we figure something out here? Is there another option?
Yeah, nobody can tell me, that's it. Yeah. I mean, you have to figure it out for yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if in the time I had that ability and that knowledge and experience to be able to make that decision. I think I could do it now.
Yeah, with maturity and also with experience, you can see, and with perspective, it's of course much easier to see, right? So, so then you quit, you go back home, and then what happens? Tell us.
So then, to be honest, I was frustrated. I was, like I told you, I felt like I didn't know who I was, what I should do with my life. My whole life I thought I'm going to be a dancer and that's it. And so I didn't step foot in a studio for a while. I just thought I would try other things. So I started hostessing at a restaurant, which was scary because I didn't know how to talk to people about things other than ballet. It's like, what are we talking about?
I'm sure you were fantastic because you told me that everybody loved you, and So.
Yeah. It turned out okay. So I did that. And then, about 3 months in, I did really miss it. So I thought I would just start teaching some private lessons to people I knew. So I just started, diddle daddling and teaching and, just doing a little bit here and there. And then I realized how much I missed it and how much I really did love ballet. That anger and those feelings have kind of settled by then. And I was thinking more logically. So I started teaching a little bit. And then Arlene Minkhorst actually called me when I was in Kelowna, and she had heard through the grapevine that I was teaching a little bit. And she asked me if I would want to come to Winnipeg, and she wanted to mentor me and put me through the teacher's program and teach me how to teach. So I did that.
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity, right, for you to really experience teaching on a professional level as well, right, and also get some help on how to go at it, right? I would like to come back, because you said, basically you didn't know who you were, and I find that this is a problem for a lot of young dancers, because we invest so much time and so much energy into one thing and one goal, and there's so much pressure into doing that, the right way, and there's no much time because we know that the career is so short. So I find that really interesting. Do you think it's possible for younger dancers to actually know themselves sooner?
I do. I really do. I think with the right mentor and teacher and somebody to keep them in check with themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think at that age you need help, right? We need help to figure it out. Like we can figure so much on our own, but really it takes a good teacher and a good mentor to just allow a dancer to reflect and check in with themselves, ask themselves how they're feeling. Because then they start to get to know themselves, and they're not just a product. They're not just an item, right? Then they are a person. They do have feelings. But it does take that, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities there for growth and for change in that profession, in that sense, right? Because I've felt that there was so much need for that, also because eventually we all people, we're not just dancers, right? So dancers is to express your uniqueness and to express your passion, But underneath that, if the person is not doesn't function properly, then it creates a lot of trouble, right? And injuries can also be a way for your soul or for whatever, your higher self to say, hey, wait a minute, something is wrong here. Let's go
Exactly.
back a little bit. So
Yeah, that's exactly.
yeah, sorry, that's what you want to say.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Mm.
And so I know that you also started dancing again.
Mm.
So I'd like to know how this is going now. I mean, with this new maturity, with this understanding of who you are much better, and of course, I mean, you're not 20 anymore, so this gives you, I mean, you're not much more than 20, but it makes a big difference, right? I
Yeah,
think
it
you're
does.
super young, but I mean, how is it for you to dance now? How is it different?
Hmm. It's a good question. I think the biggest thing is that I'm not worried so much now about necessarily what it looks like, what people think of me. I'm really now just dancing for the joy of it, because you know what, it is like it was my decision to come back because I missed it. And so I think now I'm dancing for myself. And I think when I was younger, I was very much dancing to please. I wanted people to think I'm good. I wanted people to validate me and say, that's better, this is good, you deserve to go here. I wanted to hear those things, but I wasn't telling them to myself. I actually was doing the opposite. People would tell me, oh, that's really good, and in my head I would say, no, it's not. No, I need to do better. Which in a way is good. I was very disciplined and hardworking, and I think it got me much better, but at the cost of what? Because I was never satisfied with what I did, very rarely. I always wanted more. I had high pressure on myself. So it took the joy, I think, away a little bit, a lot actually. Where now when I'm dancing, it's I'm just enjoying it, and there's no I don't need that validation from other people, because I'm just happy. I just love it. Like I'm just dancing for me.
And that's wonderful to hear that, right? Because I think this is one of the biggest point I think that I also found is like if I teach people, I want them to understand that they're doing it for themselves. And I'm here as a mirror, and I'm here to push because I'm going to push like crazy. And I'm here to really get the most out of them. But it's never against them, first of all. And it's also, once you know that you're doing for yourself, you feel so empowered. Once you're doing it for others and constantly trying to get, feedback and validation. And I'm not saying that this will go ever completely away, because when you're dancing, of course, people are watching you. So you always, of course, you want people to like you. Otherwise, it's a bit difficult, but create a balance, between what you need, for you to survive, in this world, and how much is going to actually feed you to dance, right? How much it's going to give you to be able to express what you have to express. And I think it's beautiful that you can say that now. I'm so happy for you, because then it's a completely different way of dancing, right? And a different purpose with much less pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't mean, and I've realized that doesn't mean that you can't get better and be, an amazing dancer. And I think before I had really separated that. I really thought like to be the best, to be this, you had to, and kind of be a robot, like just do it, don't even think, just do it. But I
Well, it's
think
a
I'm
very
realizing,
rigid way, right? You think
yeah,
you get obsessed with hard work, and you think, and then you have no I mean, you have no compassion for yourself. So no matter what happens, you're always in stress, right? It's always has to be better. It has to be more. It has to be, and it's a different mindset. It's not because you're going to rest your body and you're going to do something very joyful for yourself that is nothing to do with ballet, that you're not going to be good at what you do. And it's very hard for dancers to accept that and juggle with that, right? So thank you so much, because I really appreciate what you're saying on this. So Do you have any project in the near future so people can come and see you dance?
Yeah, we're working on a project right now with Jolene Bailey with the Winnipeg Contemporary Dancers. So that's going to be performed at the end of April. I think it's April 22nd is the first show. So it's a new creation, a new work. For me, it's been a huge growth in my artistry, and it's a little bit more theater. We have some text in it, so we're talking. So it's been a really good exploration for me, and it's made me grow as I would say more as like an artist, a mature artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been exciting, an exciting adventure.
So you got rid of the point shoes?
Yeah, they're gone for now.
Okay, so what is the difference actually, between pure classical ballet and experimental work like what you're doing now?
I think I kind of touched on it before, but I think the focus is more on the feeling it invokes in you, and also what it makes other people feel,
Mm-hmm.
versus the squareness of maybe how it looks or the direct text. You know what I mean? Like in a ballet, it's like it's a story, right? It's very laid out. We say the story. There's some room for interpretation, but in what I'm doing now in this more experimental work, there is no, if someone says like, oh, what's it about? There's not really a story. It could be different for everybody, which is kind of cool because you can go in and you can experience something and somebody else can experience something. And then there's really a conversation. We talk about it, and it's really interesting to hear how one thing affects somebody and one thing affects somebody else. So it's more open for interpretation, I guess.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say that your transition between, because obviously you chose to stop, but, it was kind of this was a bit brutal. I think, stopping for an injury is very brutal. How would you qualify this period of your life? Was it really painful? Was it really stressful, or you just felt relieved? I don't know. I mean, what was it for you?
I think it was a journey. Well, it was a journey. I don't think it was a journey. It was started off with pain, a lot of pain, which turned into anger.
Pain in your feet or in your foot, or emotional pain?
I was thinking emotional. Like it was really painful emotionally. It took a toll on me, and then that turned into anger. I was angry. It was this feeling of almost blame. It's like, this isn't my fault, I worked hard. You go through all of this. It's a stage of grief, really. It was, for me, I was grieving a loss, and then eventually it just transitioned into I guess I went through anger, and then acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually it came to acceptance, and then this is what is, and now what what I want to do with my life. And that was exciting. Yeah. So, and then it's like, now the doors are open. I can, what
so
do I
now
want
start
to do?
dancing again.
Yeah, but I think that's what changed. I think that's what I needed in order to change that, like I was saying before, that change that mindset. I think I truly believe everything happens for a reason. And for me, that's what I needed to change my mindset. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so what did you wish you had known as a student that you found out when you became a dancer? And then you'll tell me what you wish you had known when you were, after you stopped dancing, when you were dancing. Was that clear or was that not clear?
No, that was clear.
Okay.
Hang on, I wrote this down because I wanted to really touch on something, so I need to look. Oh yeah, it's a simple, it's a simple concept, but I think we don't take enough time to just enjoy the moment and take time to appreciate and enjoy just those small wins, like this, and even the losses, like just be in the moment. I was so always thinking about what's coming next. Okay, what's my next plan? What's the next audition? It's always what's next. And I don't ever think I really enjoyed and appreciated the moment, even the not so great ones, just the presence of it.
Mm-hmm. Be with yourself,
Be with yourself, exactly.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that reflection and being in tune with yourself, being present.
Okay, so that would be for both, when you were a student and when you were a dancer? This is something you learned after stopping dancing mostly?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Because I think I was still in that same mindset when I joined the company too. It's just constantly like go, 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 running ahead, always catching up, But,
yeah. And with the demands from the outside world,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So going back to your student years, is there anything, if you could change something for the better in the environment you were evolving in, what would it be?
I think, the demands of ballet are high. You need discipline, you need, work ethic and athleticism. It's high demands, but I think that can be taught in a way of care and kindness, an awareness. Teachers they're aware and in tune with themselves, I think is really important. I think just with the history of ballet, and I think some teachers can be carry their past, whatever it is trauma or their past way of being taught, onto their students, and it's kind of this cycle, and sometimes the environment I think can be maybe not the healthiest in terms of teaching a dancer how to be in tune with themselves and how to be a human.
Yeah, this is not something you can teach if you haven't done it yourself, right? It's like then you start projecting it on other people. And I think that's the biggest problem for me in the ballet world is like, nothing against anybody. It's just that if we don't do this homework, and try to find in ourselves what are the triggers and what are the painful part, then we won't be able to avoid to just spit them out on someone else, because eventually this is how it happens. I mean, it doesn't happen only in ballet, it happens in the whole world. It's like parents do to their kids what has been done onto them. And if we don't take a charge of our own life, then it never stops, right? So I think it's a very beautiful point. Yeah.
And I think, as a young dancer, we look up to the teachers so much. They're your mentor, you idolize them. They're a really important part of your life. A lot of these kids move away from home, and so your teacher really does become, in a way, sort of a parental figure.
Yeah.
Like, no, they're not, but that role is missing in some regard, right, in your life. So it's a huge responsibility. And I think you're right. Like if the teacher is not in tune with themselves and that projection comes, it can have a huge effect on a dancer. Yeah.
Okay. So I would say same question in the company, in the environment of the company. If there is anything that you could have changed, what would that be? In terms of how the company functions and, your experience there.
I think that's a little different because now when you're in a company, it shifts a little bit. Now you don't really have that teacher-student dynamic anymore. You're closer in age and you're an adult. You're considered an artist at that point. You're a professional. So the dynamic changes for sure. There's still a power dynamic, but it's not the same. I think in a company setting, what I learned is that the senior dancers do take on that mentorship role a lot. That happened to me, and I'm very grateful for that. So, seeking out somebody who can kind of show you the ropes and help you along the way, that helped me a lot. I love that aspect of it. In terms of environment, and I think what needs to change a little bit is I felt that there was a lot of importance put on the image that we were supposed to portray, and maybe not a lot about again, like us as people. It just felt a lot that there was the importance of how we looked, and what
Even
we needed
physically,
to.
so your body image. So that was
Yeah.
for you. That was like a weight, or that was a no. That was a pressure.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's true. It was. It felt like a huge pressure, and I think there wasn't enough importance on the dancer and the importance of emoting and storytelling as there was the image of, the body. And
Right. Yeah.
I think that is, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mm.
So if you could go back in time, in your life, you're very young, right? I mean, you're a little puppy, but you've done a lot already. So is there anything you would do differently yourself? Is there something you would change if you went back, whether as a student or as a professional, like your behavior, your mindset? I mean, you talked a little bit about it already, choices, directions.
Mm. So I think, yeah, I've talked about it already, but I think the main thing, if I could go back, was I would be kinder to myself. Give myself more grace, have more gratitude. But it's the kindness. I think I was very hard on myself, and yeah, I just feel like you said before, it's not just a dancer, it can be anybody, but you need to love yourself first.
Yeah.
And that should come first. And I think that got pushed aside and everything. So I would be kinder to myself. And the next thing would be to be less reactive. I was very, very reactive as a student in terms of emotional reactiveness. I
But when
didn't
you're
take.
in pain and when you're in fear or in pain, I mean, the only thing you do is react instead of respond,
Yeah,
right? Because you're not in your centers. If you're not in your center, you can only react, not respond.
yeah, exactly. Those would be the two things for sure.
Okay, well, those are big things, we should frame them.
Still working on it. I'm working on it.
So on another subject, we've the last 2 years have been quite difficult. I mean, we lived some of those 2 years together quite closely. So I would like you to tell us, though, how you experienced those 2 years of COVID. Practically what happened for you, and emotionally and mentally.
For me, it was interesting because I had decided I wanted to go back to dance after being off for about 5 years, right before COVID had hit. I mean, I know you remember that. So I was like ready to go, ready to audition, and then COVID hit. So that was a big, another, I guess, block or obstacle, I should say, for me. And I had to, take time and think, do I really want to do this still? And deep down, the answer was yes. So I actually took that time to train. I did my own class every day. I did it with a different mindset this time, but I wanted to push and I wanted to train and get back into shape and see if I could do that. I wanted to prove, I think, that to myself, that I could still go back and dance again. So yeah, I took a lot of that time practically to train. I got a bar at home and went on YouTube and did all my classes every day, and I was in the studio every day. So that helped.
Would you say it was positive for you?
For me, yes. Yeah. It gave me the time and space to get back into my body.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what are the biggest lessons that you can draw from those? I mean, those were difficult years for the world, but as I talk to a lot of people, it's been quite positive for a lot of people, because a lot of people came back to themselves. They finally got time to sit at home with themselves, their families. Sometimes that makes things harder, but it's, I mean, it's very deep and a lot of insights, right? It's a complete turnover of the situation. You're like, you stop being so distracted by the outside, and all of a sudden you have to go inside, right? So some people actually really enjoyed it, and they really made the most out of it, like you did, which is great. But for the world and in general for the arts, it's been quite difficult. I mean, I think we're still going to suffer from that for a while. Can you see this? I mean, despite your experience, but can you see those 2 years as an opportunity for change? And if yes, in which way?
I think you're right. Like it took some people, I think, no, I think everybody had a realization we're so busy. We fill our lives with things. We're constantly going and doing and meeting and which is great. We're progressing and we're doing things, but again, we lose sight of ourselves. We're busying ourselves and we're not taking the time to reflect and be conscious and present. So I think it forced a lot of people, you're right, to go inside and sit with yourself, because you couldn't go out and do this social thing. You couldn't go out and people were at home and you're sitting there and okay. And then you start to really get into yourself and these, whatever it is, if it's good or bad or, problems, they're coming to light because they're there. They're not being pushed aside.
So yeah, so you say, it's great to be present, but what does that mean for you to be present, actually? Because if we want to incite younger generation to actually go there a little bit and be curious, I'm not saying that they have their whole life to do the work, because it never stops, right? It's a journey and it will last until our last breath. But what does that mean exactly for you?
For me, it's taking out the distractions. We are bombarded with distractions, and it is constantly reminding myself to like put down the phone, and that, if I'm with someone, to be there. Again, like I was saying, like not thinking about what's coming up that day or what happened maybe before. What did I say earlier to this person, and you're going in your head. It's to be right where you are, sitting where you are, asking myself how I'm feeling right now. And we had talked about this, but I always ask myself, is that a feeling? Or is that, is this really a feeling? You say sometimes, how do you feel? Oh, busy. Is that a feeling? No. So I think it's just, for me, it's reminding myself of the distractions and being right where I am in that moment.
But being right where you are, what happens then? Because it's like, I understand very well what you're saying, but for someone who doesn't know what it is to be present with themselves, and then what happens, you know what I mean? Why would you do this?
Why would we do this? Well, that's a difficult question. Well, I guess the better we know ourselves, then that's going to bring us closer to self-love, gratitude, a higher frequency, being, I don't know how to explain that
No, you explained it very well. This is exactly that. I mean, the point is to really try to raise our frequency on a daily basis, and as often as we can, so we basically create a different reality for ourselves, because if we're always in fear, shame, guilt, and pain, this is heavy, and the more we stay in there, the more we build on that. And as you say, being present, acknowledging whatever is there, the pain, the shame, whatever, is important, so that we can step out of it and create that raise of frequency that you're talking about. But that's super important to know, right? Because if we just say, I want to be present, some people go like, well, what for? What's the point?
Right. But I think that is the awareness, right? Like being present makes us aware. And when you're aware, you can see what's in front of you and maybe what needs to happen. But without that awareness, we have no idea. And then that's where that sense of being lost, you don't know where your identity or that, and that's all those low frequency, that fear, that, that's insecurity. Yeah. Those feelings, and they're not good feelings, they don't feel good. It's not.
No, that's beautiful. So really it's being able to see what is there and being able to make a different choice, choose differently, so that, because we have the power to do that, and we're not told that we have the power to do that. It's okay to feel fear, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel distressed, it's okay to feel depressed, but you know, it's either you're going to feed it and you're going to dwell in it, or you're going to look at it, acknowledge it for yourself, and just say, oh, is there a possibility that I can change that? And maybe that would be more enjoyable, you know, for the next 5 minutes, or for the next 10 hours, or, you know, but it's a moment to moment decision. And I believe as dancers, it's very hard concept, because all we know is like, there's no time to waste, and I have to work on my feet, and I have to work my extension, and I have to jump, and I have to do, and if I don't do that all day long, then I'm wasting my time. Right?
Yeah,
This is,
exactly.
I mean, and I've done it too. I mean, you know, I was very good at that, right? So it's interesting to say, well, no, maybe you can calm down, you can, you know, be with yourself, acknowledge what's there, because you cannot change something if you don't know it's there, and then slowly, you know, move on to something else. So I think it's beautiful. I mean, I've seen you transform anyway over the last few years. You know, it's been such a pleasure to look at, you know. So that's that's wonderful. So what are you doing now, Kira? Tell us. I mean, I know you're doing, so you're dancing, but you're not only dancing.
No, I'm still teaching. When I decided that the biggest thing for me when I made the decision to go back to dancing, I kept going between, I love teaching. I fell in love with it. I didn't know, actually, when I was dancing, like that was not on my radar. I didn't know I wanted to teach, didn't actually think about it at all. But then when I started, I love the job, the kids, and watching them grow and helping them discover their talent, and then also themselves. And it's a whole journey that you guide them along. So I didn't want to give that up. But I also wanted to dance. So I made the transition to leave the professional school. And now I teach in a recreational setting at night. And then I dance during the day. So I'm dancing, and then I go and teach at night. And it's such a beautiful balance. I'm glad I made the decision, because I think I would have felt a little bit, same thing, a little bit lost without teaching too, because it's something I love. So
I mean, I know how much you give as a teacher, and I know how much your students love you. I mean, adore you even. So I think it's wonderful. I mean, you have a lot to give, and as you grow and as you develop, I think it's going to be better and better. You know, it's like old wine.
Yeah.
So one of my last questions is, what would be the best single advice you could give to someone starting their career today?
Stay inspired. Stay inspired. You know, this is a huge part of what fuels our work ethic and the purpose, right? Find your purpose. Like, why are you doing this? And I think that comes from the inspiration a lot. Maybe that's different for everybody. Maybe I'm saying two different things, but maybe those are two really good things. Find your purpose, stay inspired.
No, and being inspired is also, you know, following your purpose, I would say, right? Yeah.
For
so
me, that is.
How do you stay inspired, Kira?
Watch, you know, it's like it's your craft. Go and find, whether it's, there's so much online now, like you can look on YouTube. If there's anything live, go see it. And pick a dancer that you really admire, you like the way they dance, or you want to be like them, and follow them, you know, watch their career, find them in different roles, and look up to them, because I think it's really important to find, whether it's a mentor or
but it's so easy nowadays, you know, with all the YouTube but you know what, it's so easy, and because it was so much harder for us, and I'm not talking for you, but in my days it was on a VHS tape, right? So I mean, and you would just borrow the tape from your friend and everything, but it was such so exciting, right? If I had to see Sleeping Beauty with the Royal
Mm,
Ballet with Merle Park, it was like, it was an event, I would sit there and I would suck it in, basically. And now, because it goes so fast, you put YouTube, I wonder sometimes if they actually watch the full variation, not the full ballet,
right.
but the full variation. And this is also,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit this, a very scattered mind that is so much, you press like on everything, but you go as fast as possible. Maybe,
Mm,
yeah. I mean, I would add, to stay inspired, I would add, take a breath and,
mm.
acknowledge what you're looking at, to take the time to let it sink in.
Yeah, absolutely. And get to know, get to know the ballet, get to know the dancers. That will also help the purpose. It's like,
Mhm.
well, why am I doing this role? What does that mean? It's gonna just get more depth for you and more satisfaction, I think, in the end.
Yeah, and what role do I want to dance? What is
Yeah.
the role I'm dying to dance, and I'll do anything to do that role, for example.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's a beautiful advice. Thank you so much, Kira. I think we're gonna wrap it up. I mean, it
Yeah,
was a great conversation. I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much, Kira.
me
And I'm
too.
gonna wish you all the best. Hopefully, maybe I'll watch the video of that piece you're making. Jolene. I would love that. And I wish you the very, very best in everything you do.
Thank you so much, Sabine. It's been such a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on. And I hope that something I said can help somebody. And yeah,
I'm sure
every
it will.
little bit hopefully helps at some point. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, Kira.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.